So the starting position, I guess, it'd be good to know how you see 5G is already improving or having an impact on the payments industry specifically, and how that compares to maybe other industry sectors you're aware of, what 5G is or isn't doing. And I guess a sort of supplementary to that is, because it's still early days, so the potential, again, what you see is the potential for 5G to have an impact in the payments and the wider finance sector.
Right. Well, before I provide my perspective on that, I need to say that we, as a company, we do not really face consumers directly, and 5G will definitely, first of all, will be felt by consumers. Now, what we do, we serve other payment service providers who in turn serve the consumers. So the introduction of 5G will not really affect our own services. It will affect the services of our clients, and through that it will definitely affect our lives. And the way I think it will affect the life of companies like Clear Junction is, first of all, in the obvious increase in the amount of the payments. And I assume that the reason for the increase in the number of the payments processed by consumers will be number one, just because of further, and we're talking here about the electronic payments. I mean, we don't talk about cash. And so number one, there will be an increase in the market penetration of different POS solutions. Basically, when today we don't really use much cash, but I think in the future, because of 5G, the use of cash will be even smaller than now, and it will make economical sense for businesses to use cards and other electronic ways of payments, even for really tiny payments. When you pay really a few pounds, it will make perfect sense for them to use the cards and similar payment vehicles. Another reason for the increase in the number of payments is because there will be some different payment appliances that we probably hear from in different science fiction movies about. Again, this is not really what we do as Clear Junction, but our clients are definitely well prepared to offer some solutions that they can't offer now without the 5G, without the bandwidth and without the speed of the 5G. But those will be, it seems like those will be solutions about around the facial recognition, or around different Internet of Things type of gadgets, and all that will increase the number of payments processed through the pipes of the fintech industry. Besides the increase of the number of payments, the second thing that will happen is obviously the increased requirements for the speed of the payment processing. And I believe that these two things, the increase in the number of payments and the increased requirements for the service level, that is something that we will see in the coming years as a result of the rollout of 5G. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and so you say, obviously, you're saying it won't have a direct impact, right? So the applications or the platform you provide to your customers, that can, even if the speeds and the frequency of transactions increase, dramatically, what you already do is robust enough, if you like, to cope with that extra workload? Or do you think you might have to develop the platform slightly more to be capable of serving that extra demand, should we say?
Look, all the fintech service providers nowadays are built with scale up in mind. When they approach their investors or when they build their platforms, they use all these nice services. They're heavily built on using the cloud technology. So there is a wide belief that when the amount of payments increases, then as a matter of just say 5 minutes, you can increase the number of the servers that help that are part of that process, and that makes that does the magic, and then you don't really feel the increased traffic. With that, my personal experience and our experience here as a team on Clear Junction shows that the reality is a bit more complex, and it is definitely easy to upgrade the technology to add more servers. That's yes, that's doable, but at some point that scale up comes down not just to the CPUs and the processing power as much as it comes down to the algorithms. And I'll give you an example. The payments is an industry of scale, and everything needs to be fully automated. And if you can't automate, you can't survive. But if you automate everything with the right technology and the right algorithms and right people, then it will fly. Now, here's the news: you can't automate it all, and there are always going to be some exceptions, some errors, and that exception management, or in simple words, the error log. That's what really I think that's one of the biggest pains related to the scale up, and these errors may come from the interaction with other providers. These errors may come from different processes, say some transaction screening or client consumer onboarding. This facial recognition, you can't really fully automate that process. There is always going to be some exceptions, and even the best possible technology will always give you the green, the red, and the yellow, and that yellow, that's where the pain is. And all the fintech companies, or majority of fintech companies, they work really hard to reduce that yellow part, and the risk is clear, right? If you make a mistake and you block a good transaction, you lose business. If you make a mistake and you approve a bad transaction, you're at risk of making a regulatory breach, and you don't want to afford any of these scenarios. So what do? You just say, okay, so that's yellow, and that yellow part that needs to be reviewed manually. So if you have, and those are the exceptions that I'm talking about, right? So if you have this, if you have, say, 0.5% of the exceptions, which is really, really high. I mean, usually businesses have less than that. So if you have 5% of the exceptions, and then you have a team of 5 people who look after that, that's okay. But then when the business grows tenfold, and with 5G, it can happen tomorrow. I mean, it's that's the whole thing. I mean, it's if all of a sudden it's just explodes. So you go from so you grow tenfold, and then from these 5 people, you need to have 50 people, which is probably fine. But you need to find these people. You need to train them. They all need to work together. So that's where you say, hey, no, I can't afford that. I will want to improve my algorithms, and I want to reduce from 0.5%. I want to go to 10 basis points or something. And that's that improvement of the algorithm is not as simple as adding servers, and that's where this cloud technology will not help you very quickly. So that's where I think you will want to use some specialized providers. You will want to use some AI approaches, and that's that's I think that's where the big issue of the scale up is, and that's what is really hard to predict. I mean, you never know. I mean, with the business that you have now, when you just think of this tenfold increase, where's it gonna where's it gonna start to leak? You don't know. That's something that the decision makers need to look really carefully after to ensure that scale up goes smoothly, and that's where I think we will see most of the surprises when the 5G is rolled out.
Okay, and you mentioned sort of the unknown and the surprises. I mean, we're talking about 5G as if it's, well, maybe not as it's already out there, but it's just going to get rolled out. I mean, there seems to be quite a lot of uncertainty as to, you know, how and when. Some people I talk to say there's a load of 5G infrastructure out there that just aren't the right applications and devices to, you know, hook into it, and other people are saying, oh no, it's not ready. So any thoughts as to the sort of, I suppose, the maturity of the 5G market? And of course, we're talking, I think the earlier applications in the main are within an organization or within a building, you know, say in a manufacturing plant. But clearly the exciting bit is when the mobile phone world, I guess, gets 5G enabled and suddenly we're all able to connect. But I mean, where I am, for example, I barely get 4G, so I'm not sure when 5G is going to arrive in my neck of the woods. So just some thoughts, I guess, on, you know, how 5G is going to be rolled out, you know, to the level where it is pervasive.
Look, the rollout of 5G depends really on the, in my opinion, depends on the telecom companies, and it's their job to roll it out as soon as they can, and they're busy with that. On our side, the questions that we ask ourselves is how long it will take till the payment companies, the fintechs of this world, till they adopt different approaches which become possible through 5G. And these approaches is one of the things that I mentioned earlier that probably belong more to the area of the science fiction. But we will see it. I mean, it's the good news is that you and I will probably see this in the coming years. So on our side, we definitely see that, at least among our clients, there is the huge amount of creativity, and they're well prepared to start rolling out these different new services that require bigger, more bandwidth, and can only be built on more secure networks and on a faster data exchange. So we definitely see we are approached like on a daily basis by different startups, by different fintechs that wants to roll out new solutions for the consumers, which cannot be possible without the 5G. So it's not. I don't think it will take long from the time when 5G becomes available for you on your mobile device till the time when you see some of the uses of that 5G at the point of sale.
And in terms of, I think you alluded to it earlier, but just following up the point, what is clearly speed is a major, if not the major, advantage of 5G over 4G. But are there going to be things that your customers will be able to do with 5G that just at the moment aren't possible, or are possible but, you know, don't work very well for customers? Therefore, you know, 5G gives more exciting possibilities.
Well, as I said, I think that's the consumer payments, and that's some applications of that based on the facial recognition. So you will not need to use the card. You will not need to use your mobile phone. You will probably just show up in front of a camera, and then that's how the payments are completed. Okay, I think there will be quite a bit of change for as these things as these new payment vehicles as they roll out, there will be more pressure on unbanked or underbanked, because it will become even harder to stay unbanked or underbanked. And those will be some the communities of migrants who cannot afford having an account or can't open an account. So there will be more pressure from their side to open accounts and to have to go outside of just the cash and start using financial services. So yeah, we will definitely see some changes in that world. Here on our side, we are fairly used to work with those communities in the cross-border payments. So for these communities, we offer some cross-border payment services where they probably send money home for as a sort of a person-to-person remittances. So we will definitely see, and that's good news, that these people will experience some pressure towards improving their access to the banking services. Okay, if that makes sense, Phil.
Yeah, and in terms, and the other thing, I mean, the world is obsessed for obvious reasons with security. And again, this might be a silly question, but does 5G throw? I mean, you alluded earlier to the fact that if you've got 5 people checking well, I think you call them the yellow transactions, you'll need 50. So I guess that's a bit of a security challenge with 5G. You know, there's more happening quicker, so you need, to address that. But are there any other sort of security or compliance challenges that 5G brings with it?
Yeah, unfortunately, there are some challenges, and as any technology, any type of progress, it serves the good guys and the bad guys, and it will definitely open up some additional ways for fraudsters, for bad people to steal someone's money or to defraud naive people, and that cost it looks like that cost will be paid by less protected users of the payment services. And I think the best way for protecting them is just education and making them more aware of different risks and the fraud attempts. I'm sure the fintech community will work on different anti-fraud measures, and there will be a whole range of different solutions for protecting consumers and for fighting fraud. And these things will happen, but I think in the end of the day, one of the most powerful ways in fighting fraud is just the increasing of the awareness of the consumers in regards to different ways of fraud, and that's the consumer education. Okay, but with all what is said about 5G and that it is definitely more secure, but as any type of technological progress, there will be a price paid by some of the people who will become victims of fraud, unfortunately.
I'm just wondering, I mean, just as a consumer myself, it seems to me there's a trend within the finance sector that, whereas once upon a time, the finance houses themselves were 100% accepted responsibility for security breaches and, tend to recompense customers, there seems to be a bit of a trend pushing back, and, for customers, as you said, consumers need educating, but there seems to be a bit of a thing that, if I let my password get hacked or whatever, that's going to be my fault sometimes. Do you see that as a bit of a, whether it's a worrying trend or just a changing of the emphasis? Do you think that's going to continue, or do you think in order to get these technology solutions sort of accepted, the finance industry will still have to stand, guarantor of anything that goes wrong?
Well, I fully agree with you. We definitely see an increase in how payment service providers and banks fight the fraud, and how they try to protect their customers from different fraudsters. from what I see, that change, and I agree, it's definitely a trend now. But from what I see, that trend is led at the moment by the regulators, and that's a good, it's a great thing. That it started maybe about a year ago or so, and it's been really powerful. And we see now that the efforts towards fighting the fraud, that becomes more and more important task on the to-do list of payment service providers. I don't think, but I don't think it's the responsibility of the market to push the industry in that direction. I really think that's one of the regulators' responsibilities, and that's why I really welcome that. It's we definitely see that change going on now. We see it; it goes really strong and deep, and frankly, I don't see anyway. If we welcome that, progress, that technological progress, sorry. If we welcome that progress, then we definitely have to find, the regulators definitely need to find ways to protect the consumers. And we definitely see that in this industry right now, that the regulators are really strong in pushing that trend over the whole industry.
Okay. We've obviously concentrated on 5G. I'm just wondering, are there any other sort of technology trends that you are seeing already having an impact, or you can see are, on the horizon when it comes to impact that it will have on the payments industry in particular?
So yeah, we talked about 5G, and then you said let's look at a wider perspective at some other technological changes. And let me ask you, why do you limit me now in talking about the technological changes? There are quite a bit of other changes in this life.
Well, no, I mean, well, I've got as long as you have, but no, seriously. Yeah, okay, so just trends, impacts on the payments industry.
So if you look, right, if you look outside, I mean, this whole world and the whole society went through quite a bit of different changes in the last year and a half. And those changes, even not directly related to technology, those changes in the society, the way we work, the way we enjoy the life, those changes have definitely affected the payments industry. So we see now people don't really, or they do less the physical shopping. They do this shopping online, right? What I told you just now about the pains in the scale up because of 5G, quite a bit of fintech companies, and Clear Junction, one of them, we experienced that scale up as a part of the COVID lockdowns. We experienced a huge, massive increase in the number of payments, and we went through that scale up during the first half of this year. So what I shared with you now about the pain of the exception handling and about how that can be resolved, I mean, that's I mean, we went through that. We know that we really experienced that as a team, and we just figured out that that it takes longer to improve your algorithms than just to clone a few of your servers. Okay, if that makes sense. So with all the changes in our lives these days, I mean, technology is just one of the domains where changes happen. But I think there are so many changes in the way the society behaves. Probably more significant changes will not come from the technology. They will probably come from medicine. If you ask me today, in the end of September.
So it's you go to bed at night and you just hope tomorrow somebody hasn't reinvented the wheel, or your sector of the market. So yeah. Agility, I guess, for your organization, agility, and as you say, during the pandemic, as many you had to sort of refocus or add extra resource. You think that's a sort of here to stay, that level of uncertainty and ability to change according to market conditions?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've seen it seems like you can't survive if your organization is not agile, and we definitely see that. We learned quite a bit about the agility in the last year and a half. Just thinking of the technology once again, we will probably see some changes related to the payment industry and the society in general as a result of the rollout of some services based on blockchain and based on the cryptocurrency. We know that the politicians now discuss that a lot, the need of the so-called central bank issue digital currencies. I don't know what will come out of that, but it's just really good to have the politicians having that discussion.
Although I guess as well, with COP26 around the corner, as I'm no expert on cryptocurrencies, but I know sort of Bitcoin mining, for example, is very server intensive, which with everyone looking at sustainability. So if you know the answer, please tell me, is it possible to have all these virtual currencies and be sustainable, or do they, by their very nature, I guess if they're replacing printing banknotes and stuff like that, maybe they do contribute, but as I say, my knowledge of Bitcoin is that it's quite a energy intensive cryptocurrency.
Look, I can't really. I don't think I can comment about the specifics of the mining of the Bitcoin. I can definitely say that the developments around blockchain and the further progress or further developments around the cryptocurrencies or the central bank issued digital currencies, in my perspective, those developments belong to the to the right side of the progress, okay, and they will lead us to the next applications related to the payments, to the whole idea of how money is how money is seen in our lives. I can't really provide any commentary on the specific practical solutions there, but it definitely seems to me that really pushes the that really pushes the progress forward. That pushes the envelope, and that's on the right side of the progress. Versus, I mean, it's good things will come out of that, to make it in simple words.
Yeah. Okay. And we've been talking without reference to sort of geographies. So clearly we have a sort of developed world. I guess we're looking at US, Europe, etc. We've got a developing world, and then the world that perhaps is quite a long way to go. So I'm just wondering if you have any sort of observations. What we've talked about, is this mainly applying to the sort of the Western world and maybe some of the more developed countries in the APAC region? Or I've read some, obviously a lot of these developing countries don't have, shall we say, the legacy and the infrastructure that we are all dealing with, so they can jump straight to 5G, as it were, because they don't have to worry about everything they've done for the last 100 years because they just don't have that infrastructure. So I'm not trying to confuse it, but any sort of observations as to who's doing what around the world, if that's possible to summarize?
Yeah, probably the very, very simple and basic observation is to be careful with how we define the developed countries and the developing countries. going to be quite a bit of surprises. I think we see so many changes in the last during the last say couple of years in the way society in the relationship between society and the state, for example, right? And those are the things that are different in most cases between the so-called developed countries and the developing countries. We see that the technology is being adopted very, very fast in all the types of the countries. It's in the developing countries and in the developed countries, the technology is adopted probably more or less at the same pace. So I think the surprises will come from how we see those so-called developing countries. They will surprise us. So I suggest we just stay vigilant to that, and they don't try to label someone as more developed or less developed. These countries are probably more open to adopt some of the aspects of the progress, and they will probably lead us to question the whole concept of what is developed and what is developing. That's just a general observation for that.
So as a company, Clear Junction, you work with customers in both the how should we say, the mature markets and the developing markets. Mm-hmm. Do you anticipate that those immature, non-legacy, if we can call them that, markets there do have a lot of opportunities alongside the the people that, because as I know, I mean, I'm sure you know, obviously 4G infrastructure, for example, you can't upgrade 4G to 5G. It's a complete new set of infrastructure. So that's part of the problem potentially holding back, because people are still sweating 4G assets. Whereas again, in these less mature markets, if they've not even got 4G, they can just go straight to 5G without any of the baggage. Is that the kind of thing you're hinting at?
As many fintech companies, we also learned that the most challenging part in the payment industry is the cross-border payments. The domestic markets in different countries are, in many cases, are controlled by traditional or more traditional players like banks and the similar companies. There is a bigger challenge in the cross-border payments, and I agree with you that if we look at the whole map of the world, then probably the biggest challenge is in the cross-border payments is in connecting more economically and technologically advanced countries with countries with which are not as well economically developed. And I agree with you that the adoption of 5G is probably faster in the more developed countries. So what companies like ours usually do, we in our work, we rely on the local providers in all these different geographies. So just to make it probably more illustrative, we see quite a bit that, and we enable quite a bit of so-called person-to-person remittances, like migrant workers who work here in London. They want to send money home to the Philippines, for example, right? Now in the Philippines, the recipients will probably want to receive cash. Here in the UK, these people, they will want the migrant workers, they will not want to send cash because they're not used to use cash. They will want to make a payment with a card, or they will want to make a bank transfer. So the answer to this is that in every single geography where you work, you need to adopt to the needs of that specific market. So we do not want to accept cash here in London. We want to receive the electronic ways of payment. But in the Philippines, we will require from our service providers there, domestically in the Philippines, we will require from them to deliver the funds to the recipients using cash, because that's how they used to do that, and that's what they really need. It will not really help if you make a bank transfer to the families in the Philippines. They will not appreciate that, and then they will even if you do that, they will need to go to the bank and get cash, which just adds another link in that person-to-person transfer process. Okay, so yes, I think the fintechs of the world, they're well prepared to the fact that the world is not even. And in some countries, there will be the 5G will be adopted really soon. In some countries, it will not adopted in the coming years. But that's I think that's the beauty of this industry. I mean, if every country worked in the same way, there wouldn't be any need in the in the services like Clear Junction. We really go into the very details, and we we provide a tailored solution for different markets where we act. And that's the reason clients come to us, because they can either come to us because we understand that, or they can build it themselves. So guess what? It's much cheaper and faster to come to someone who's a professional, and which is why we're happy to serve them.
Okay, so maybe to summarize, what, if you were sort of looking ahead for the next 12 months, what would you sort of characterize as what excites you about the next 12 months in terms of the opportunities for Clear Junction? And also, is there anything that does keep you awake at night in terms of what might go, not for the company, but the financial payments industry in general? Are there any sort of possible banana skins out there, or is it only sort of upsides that you can see?
What we can see here is here at Clear Junction is further expansion geographically of different services that we provide. At the moment we are very active here in the UK. We're active in the Eurozone, providing services in euros. We provide services in the currencies in North America, in Eastern Europe, and we will want to further expand geographically so that our clients, the fintechs and banks, may through Clear Junction may have access to different payment rails in those wider geographies. Besides just the geographical expansion, we also start offering some additional services. For example, the FX services so that they can easily convert from different currencies that they operate in. We offer services for fast instant payments in different countries. These are the things that I think really make us excited when we come to work, and in the coming 12 months, that's definitely what we will see more and more. Going back to the 5G, I do not think that we will see that change coming in the next 12 months. I mean, 5G will come, or partially will come, but we will not see as many changes in the coming 12 months. My personal guess that it will probably take about 2 years or 24 months till we really see all that happening. It will really change your fields and my life. I mean, we will really become the users of that. We will see the results of that 5G rollout.
Okay, well, we covered a lot of ground, and it's an area you may or may not have guessed that I'm not as familiar with as other bits of technology, but I've really enjoyed finding out more about it. So thanks very much indeed for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good questions. Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much.